Hello, today we're going to unpack Advanced Ser and Estar. This lesson is intended for students who are in at least year 3 or 4 of Spanish who have been working with Ser and Estar in the past and are ready to play around with them in a variety of verb tenses and learn some of the more advanced, nuanced differences of when we use each. This video will be brief, so please feel free to pause whenever you need to write things down. All right, let's start with our big idea. Both ser and estar mean to be in English, and both of them are often irregular in their conjugation in many verb tenses. Big idea for ser. Ser is at the core a being verb, and so it's used to describe a permanent or long-lasting definition of what or who someone is. So if it's defining that this is long-term true, then we're going to use ser. I'm going to show you several examples of specific uses. I would recommend that you write down at least one sample sentence for each one. So, for example, we use ser to say the date, the day, or the time, because that's a definition. If today is Thursday, that is the definition of what today is. Tomorrow is a different day. So I could say, for example, hoy es el 1 de septiembre, or ayer fue miércoles, or eran las 3 de la tarde. We also use ser to define what something is or what someone is, which is what their profession is. So, for example, I can say, ella es la maestra de español, or ese fue mi cuaderno para las ciencias. We also use ser to describe who the owner is of an object, or if it's a person, we don't call it ownership, we call it relationship. So, for example, I could say, es mi mochila, or ella será mi hermana. We also use ser to describe characteristics. Now, this could be physical characteristics, someone is tall or short, or it could be their personality, but we're talking about long-term characteristics, not they're acting that way today, but generally speaking, this is what that person is like. So, for example, I can say, Jorge siempre era muy simpático, or mis hermanos son mayores que yo, or nosotros seremos muy inteligentes. Perhaps the first use of ser that you learned in Spanish 1 is your origin, to say where you are from. So that could be yo soy de California, or ellos son de Florida, for example. The next one is one that we want to put a star by or highlight because it's going to be tricky. We use ser to give the location of an event. And the reason this is tricky is that in general, other locations use estar. So if it's a location of a person or location of an object, we use estar. But the location of an event is a definitive part of what that event is. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that this Friday night, you are having a party at your house. You're inviting all of your friends. You're going to do awesome things. It's going to be a huge party at your house. Oh no, you got sick. Don't worry, your Spanish teacher is going to have the party at their house instead. Is that okay? Of course that's not okay, because it wouldn't be the same party. The party that's at your house, the fact that it's at your house is a definitive part of what that party is. If your teacher has it at their house, they're not going to have the same food, they're not going to have the same activities, they're not going to invite the same people, and so the party itself has definitively changed. So for that reason, the location of an event uses ser because it's a definitive part of what it is. So I could say, for example, la fiesta es en la cafetería, or el partido es en el gimnasio. And one last thought, when we want to say that something is good, we often get confused. Is that es or está? So we use ser with the adjective bueno to say that something is of good quality. So I could say about a person, ella es muy buena, juega muy bien. She's a really good player. She's good at it. Or about a book, el libro fue bueno, me gustó. I'm not saying that she's feeling good right now. I'm saying she is of good quality. So bueno or buena is an adjective. We're going to use that with ser. When we get to the other column, we're going to look how we use estar with bien to say temporarily how someone is doing. Okay, let's move on to estar. The big idea for estar is used for temporary conditions. So things that are not going on long term. And our core phrase here is how you are and where you are. Always use the verb estar. So, how you are, your feelings. It is life's greatest blessing and greatest curse that our feelings do not last for forever. They are intrinsically temporary. And where you are, wherever you are right now, you probably were not there an hour ago. We are constantly moving in the world, and so that is temporary. Estar is at the core a doing verb rather than a being verb. It's not defining what we are long term, it's describing what we're temporarily doing. So we can use estar with our feelings. Ellos están muy nerviosos para el examen. Yo estaba un poco triste. Nosotros estaremos tranquilos. In any verb tense you want, your feelings would use estar. We also use estar to give a location, but keep in mind, it's not the location of an event, but the location of a person or an object. So, los libros están en mi escritorio. The books are on my desk. Are they always there? No, they can move as soon as I push them. Yo estaba en la escuela. I was at school. Am I always at school? No, none of us actually live at school. Good thing. Mi casa estará cerca del parque. My house will be close to the park. Now, this one's tricky. Even the location of a house or a building is considered temporary, and so we're going to use estar. And if you struggle to remember that one, I just want you to think of this image. Have you ever seen when they pick up a whole house and put it on a flatbed trailer and move it across town and put it on a new foundation? Where I live, that's something that we get to see every once in a while, and it blows my mind every single time. My childhood home, that was how it was moved. It was picked up off a foundation and put on a new one. I don't know how it works, but it does happen, and so we're going to use that image to remember that even the location of a home would use estar because it's temporary. Then one of the big uses of estar is to use the progressive tenses. So the progressive says what you are doing, ing, right? So we've got yo estoy leyendo un libro interesante, present progressive, or we could do past progressive. Nosotros estábamos jugando al fútbol cuando ella llegó. And then one of the more nuanced reasons to use estar is to say that someone is dead or alive. Being dead or alive, culturally speaking, when we're talking about a religious perspective, a cultural perspective within Latino culture, is not necessarily a permanent situation. And so we're going to say, mi abuela no está viva, ella murió hace 10 años, or los fundadores ya están muertos. Okay, when you're ready, we're going to turn the page and we're going to look at meaning changers. We're going to look at 12 adjectives that can change their meaning if they're used after ser or after estar. The first one is going to be aburrido, and I want you to ask yourself, when I say the word aburrido, what is your brain telling you that it means? Bored? Boring? The answer is it means both. Just depends which verb you use it with. So if I say something es aburrida, like la clase es aburrida, that's describing what it's like long term, which means it's boring. But if I use it with estar, I'm talking about someone's temporary feelings being bored. So yo estoy aburrida, I am bored. The next one is listo. I want you to ask yourself, what does your instinct tell you that listo means? Listo has two very different meanings. If you use it with ser, it means that someone is smart. And if you use it with estar, it means that someone is ready. Being smart is a long-term characteristic, and being ready is a temporary condition. Next, we have the word bonito or bonita. We could also say guapo for this one. Any of those words that talk about what someone looks like. So if we use those words with ser, that means that that's just what they look like. My sister is pretty. Mi hermana es muy bonita. But if we put it with estar, it means, oh, you look that way in particular today. Mi hermanita está muy bonita hoy. She looks really pretty today because there's a special occasion going on. Or if someone's putting on makeup for a costume and you're like, oh, you look really ugly because of the makeup you put on. You could say, tú estás muy feo, meaning I don't think you're an ugly person. I'm just saying that that's what you look like right now because of what you're doing intentionally. The next word is rico. What does your brain tell you that rico means? So rico can mean rich, but there's a couple different interpretations of that word even in English, right? So if I'm talking about a person and I say Oprah Winfrey es muy rica, that means she's very wealthy. rich. But if I'm talking about food and I say la sopa está rica, it means it's delicious. The next word is malo or mala. What does your brain tell you that malo or mala means? It means bad, generally, but if we use it with ser, it means someone's bad in their character or evil. Las brujas son malas, witches are evil, for example, might be something you hear at Halloween or something. Mis amigos están mal. My friends are feeling ill. So if you use it with estar and mal is the adverb form of it. That means someone is temporarily not doing well. Next, we have verde. Obviously, verde means green. When we're talking about produce, perhaps we're talking about grapes or apples or plantains. If we say es verde, that means it is of the green variety. Las uvas son verdes, they're green grapes. Las manzanas Granny Smith son verdes. Granny Smith apples are green. That's the type of variety that they are. But if I'm talking about any kind of produce and I say está verde, that means it is unripe. It's not fully ripened yet. So esta manzana ya está verde. Las uvas ya están verdes. The grapes are still unripe. It could be red grapes, but it still uses the word verde to mean that it's not ripe yet. Next, we said that being alive or dead is used with estar. So what if we use vivo, for example, which generally means alive? What if we use it with ser? If you use it with ser, it means that someone is lively, like their personality is full of energy and spark. The next word is cansado or cansada. Cansado we typically use with estar, meaning tired, because that's a temporary condition, right? To be tired. If you describe a person as es cansado or es cansada, that means a word that we don't use a lot in modern English, tiresome. Tiresome means it makes me tired to be around that person. They are exhausting or annoying. The next one is enfermo. Enfermo generally means sick, and we've probably used it in the past with estar. Julio está enfermo, temporarily. But if our friend Julio is always sick, maybe he has some chronic illness issues, we can say es enfermo. The word in English is technically sickly, but again, in modern English, we don't use that a lot. So Julio is sickly, meaning he's chronically ill. Then we can use some other personality verbs like alegre, for example, but this could be used with almost any personality trait. If we use that with a ser, that means that that's their long-term personality. And if we use it with estar, it means they're temporarily acting that way today. So for example, alegre means happy. So if I say los maestros son alegres, that means the teachers are good humor. They're always in a good mood. If I say los maestros están alegres, that means the teachers are happy today. Maybe we're getting out early or something. Another example like that is callado or callada, which means quiet. If we use that with ser, it means that someone is like that long term. So mi amiga es muy callada. My friend is very quiet. But if she's being quiet today and I'm concerned about her, I can say mi amiga está callada hoy. And one last one. This one's kind of like the verde with produce. If you say rojo with a type of meat, if you say es rojo, that means it is categorically red meat. Like beef is red meat, right? It'll be steak es rojo. But if you say está rojo, that means that meat is raw or rare. So I could use that for beef. It'll be steak está rojo. I could also use it for chicken. I could say el pollo está rojo. Even though chicken is definitively white meat, if it is still